Patterns in nature are visible regularities of form. They recur in different contexts and can sometimes be modeled mathematically. Natural patterns include symmetry, spirals, meanders, waves, stripes, and more. When you start seeing patterns in nature, you start uncovering the amazing amount of variety present in the life around you. You start seeing biodiversity, from large patterns that cause a diversity of habitats across the landscape to the smallest leaf patterns, from planets to atoms. To explore patterns in nature, we will take a tour around Vashon Mori Islands. Before we start, we'd like to acknowledge that these lands are part of the traditional lands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians. Check out the extensions to this lesson so you can learn more about the indigenous lands and languages present here and throughout the entire Salish Sea. Let's start with some interesting patterns that contribute to ecosystem diversity across the island landscape. This map shows differences in annual rainfall across the islands. Because of our unique position sandwiched between the rain shadow of the Olympic Mountains and the heavy precipitation zone of the west side of the Cascades, rain patterns vary widely across the island. Plants and other living beings living on the west side experience 13 inches more rain per year than our neighbors only 8 miles away on Maury Island. The geologic history of glaciers advancing and retreating has also contributed to a distinct pattern of soil differences throughout the island. In general, sandy soils are present to the south and the east, and more water-retentive clay soils are present in the bottoms of watersheds and as you go north and west on the island. These patterns contribute to some of the differences you see in forests across the island. For example, to the east, on Maury, the driest place on our islands, is also full of sandy soils. That, combined with the topography, south-facing slopes, and a history of frequent fires, has shaped this area. The combination of all these factors has given rise to the largest contiguous madrone forest in the entire state. On the north end, precipitation and soil type are also how Shingle Mill Creek got its name, because the wet conditions and soggy soils grew large cedars that early loggers recognized were perfect for making house shingles. You can still walk the creek today and see old cedar stumps with notches in them like this Douglas fir has, where loggers had to stand to get high enough to be able to saw through the thick girth of these trees. Here, the understory is different too and contains a higher diversity of ferns and water-loving plants. And our beaches. Talk about patterns of diversity. Let's just look at KVI. Cobbled beaches to the north, sandy to the south, a sand spit and a salt marsh. And within each of these beach types, whether cobbles or sandy, we have different zones, patterns of difference that are caused by the extent and timing of the tides, which creates an incredible diversity of life that is adapted to hugely different conditions caused by tidal exposure within a very small spatial range.
Today our theme is patterns. So we're going to go to the plots that we have and just look around, not worry about what things are called, but just look at the different patterns and try to get a feel for the diversity in your plot that way.
Is the arrangement of leaves opposite? Or is it whirled around the stem? Or is it alternate? What shape is the leaf? Is it oval? Is it palmate? Maybe heart-shaped or needle-like? Scale-like the cedar? What do the edges of the leaf look like? Is it smooth or toothed, jagged? Is the leaf simple, meaning one leaf coming off the stem? Or is it a compound leaf composed of a lot of different leaflets that attach at a node, growing node to the stem? Maybe you're in the mood for some fractal patterns in nature, and ferns are great for that. This common fern is once divided all up its stalk, as is this one. Looks a little different. This one tastes like licorice. But then if you go over here, here's another one that's 2 or 3 times divided as you go up the stem. Divided here, here, and then on each leaflet. When you're noticing all these different patterns and shapes and forms in nature, ask yourself why. Why are leaves curvy and not square? Why are some toothed and some smooth? Why are some needle-shaped instead of broad? What are the different advantages that a tree could get and disadvantages from these different forms? Lichens also have a lot of different forms that help you identify them. So besides paying attention to what they're growing on, which surface, also look at their shape. Are they branched or tube-like? Or are they more foliage-like, leaf-like in their shape? Here on this tree is a crustose lichen growing close to the surface. These are on rocks a lot of the times too. And then there's another form that I don't see here that's called squamulus. And it's just like a crustose, but it has a little bit bigger pebbly looking features to it. And then this, look at this thing, huge shelf fungus. I'll let Maria take the fungus in a little bit here.
Some of the important patterns to pay attention to when looking at mushrooms include color, form, and where it's found. For example, does it have a stalk and a cap, or does it grow in a shelf-like pattern? Is it growing from decaying wood or out of the ground? If it has gills, what's the pattern of the gills? Are they straight or branching? Do they only cover the cap or reach all the way down the stem? Just like Bianca was alerted to the difference in pattern by the red bark in her sit spot, I too have noticed some red as I hike in a forest predominantly made up of fir, cedar, and maple. And so by looking down, I was alerted to what's often hiding far, far above.
Now we invite you to go outside and search for patterns in nature around your home. Create some art that shows off these patterns in some way and share it with us. We love hearing from you. Then find a plant you don't know and see if you can use Seek or iNaturalist to help you figure out what it is. Zero in on some of the patterns we talked about when you're taking your photos. This will be good practice for next week's biodiversity survey, where you will start identifying species. Have fun out there.